Hello again, Junior Grossi here. Uh, in the last video, we started moving some dependencies from the complement class to external classes. So, for example, if we go to our sync dictionaries command, we are going to see that we already have the repository as a dependency of this class, and we are creating a new instance of MongoDB dictionary repository. The point here is that we are not passing any argument because we are creating and getting the configuration using environment variables, for example, in here, and this should not be happening. So in order to start creating unit tests for this repository class, we should have some dependencies here. And the point here is this class is not responsible for example, dealing with environment variables or creating new client instances here, selecting the databases, etc. So our goal here is to use dependency injection to refactor a bit the current classes we have, right? For this exercise, we are going to be using PHP-DI. That's a dependency injection container for PHP. It's very easy to use. I am actually, to be honest, I am using it for the first time today. But in the documentation part, we have some easy ways to, for example, use PHP definitions. We can create a container builder, and we can add the definitions using a file. So we can have a separate file for all the dependencies we have, all the for example, let's say the recipes we should have in order to tell to the container how to instantiate a class. So introduction, let me, first of all, let's install here the PHP-DI. While it's installing, how to use it. Here explains a bit what is dependency injection. I will explain a bit later. So if you want to register definition files, what we want to do, explain in PHP definitions or tweak some options, you can use the container builder. So the point is, this is what we are looking for, okay? So it already installed, it is already installed. So what we are going to do is we are going to move to our console /bin/console.php file. That's our bootstrap file for now. What we are going to do is we are reading the environment variables here, and now what we are going to do is we are going to create a container builder. And if we go to the PHP definition sections in the PHP-DI documentation, we are going to see that we have this container build add definitions. So we are going to do add definitions, and we are going to pass a container.php file. But we are right now inside bin console. Yeah, so we are in the bin folder. We have to do is go back one folder, and we are going to be in the root, and we are going to look for a file called container.php. If we move to the root here, I'm going to create a new container.php class file, sorry, and this file is going to return for us what we want to instantiate. So what we are looking for is, first of all, how we are going to create an instance of MongoDB dictionary repository. First, how PHP-DI works in terms of PHP definitions. We have a key and we have an instance, right? So we are saying that every single time we are looking for a logger interface instance, an instance of a logger interface, we are gonna inject the logger class implementation, right? We also have vi create, and I think we have another one. I saw get. So we could use, in this case, let me copy the class name here. What we are going to do is in the container, we are going to have the class as a key, and we are going to pass a factory that's a closure, right? So function, we are going to receive the container interface. So let me get the container interface container, and what I'm going to do is I need to return an instance of this. So how do I implement an instance of that class? Right now it's just return MongoDB dictionary repository because we are not passing any parameters here. Let me import this, and we are not using the container for now. I'm going to remove it here. So if we change in the sync dictionaries command, instead of getting a new instance here, we are gonna inject an instance of the repository, and instead of creating a new one, we are gonna get the instance, right? The point here is let's work a bit more in terms of how this repository class work. We are dealing with a lot of stuff here, and we should not. So what we are going to do is we are going to move this MongoDB array to outside. I'm going to cut it here, right? And in the container, what I'm going to say is I'm sending this array to the, for example, the class constructor here, right? So it should be working fine. But the point is we are still dealing with new client, etc. So I think it would be good here to have just, for example, instead of receiving the configuration, we are going to receive an array of implementations, let's say development. We are going to have this instance here, right, with the correct database selected, right? So in here, what we could receive is the databases. So instead of looping through this, I'm going to loop through databases, and I want to be, let me move this up as a comment because I will need that. And for each database, in this case, the database env is a string and database is an instance of MongoDB database, okay? So in this case, we are going to do database select collection, what we have right here, right? And we are going to be selecting dictionaries. I'm going to move this to a constant, private constant, collection name, and it's going to be dictionaries, and in here I'm going to reference it. Okay, so the point here is we should receive already the instance. I'm going to cut this here. I'm going to move to my container, and what I'm going to do is I need to send here a different array, right? So I'm going to get the config, that's going to be this array we have, and what I'm gonna do is for each config as environment and URI. What we have to do, I don't have this string in my clipboard ready, but what we are gonna do is we are gonna use this reference, and URI is going to be new client of MongoDB. The client is going to receive the URI, and we are going to select the database. That's the same. We were using, in this case, this approach, correct? If we go to the client, we probably have some get here. So every single time we are using this approach, we are calling this magic method get, and we are selecting the database. So what we are going to do is let's select the database because it's easier to understand in my opinion. So what we are saying is this, in the end of this for each, we are going to have one instance of each database for each environment we have. So URI is gonna be the database already, right? So what we can do here is we are gonna send this config array, and it should be good. We are selecting the database already. So in here is expected to have an array of Mongo database instances for each environment, okay? And inside here we are dealing with this. We are looping just to select what's the collection we are working here. This is responsibility of the repository class because it's a dictionary repository instance. So we should be responsible for selecting what's the collection we want to use. So this is correct. But in here, we are just receiving the database instance already, right? So the sync dictionary here is already using dependency injection, and the MongoDB repository is also using dependency injection here. The big problem we have is if we go to our console, we are still creating an instance of sync dictionary command class using new approach. I'm gonna duplicate this line, and what we should do, we create the container builder, we add the definitions in the container, right? Okay, and we already know how to create an instance of a repository. If we do something like container get sync dictionaries class, we are saying I need an instance of the sync dictionary command from the container. So the container knows how to create an instance of it. If we go back to the sync dictionary, what we are doing is we are forcing here an implementation. We are forcing a MongoDB dictionary repository. We should send here an interface instead, right? So we should not know what's the implementation we are receiving this. We should have that configured in the container. So what we can do in the container is we have already the implementation. We are gonna have now a record for the abstraction, right? So what we are gonna do, it's correct. What we are gonna do is the dictionary repository interface. It's going to be mapped. We have the get method in the DI definition. We are going to get an instance of MongoDB dictionary repository. So what we are saying here is every single time I am asking for an instance of dictionary repository interface, an instance that is implementing this interface, I'm going to return this implementation, okay? This concrete class. So let me remove these comments here. So we already have the repository and the interface. So in here we are asking for the interface. We can remove this MongoDB dictionary here. And the point is it should be working. Let me see if we are not forgetting anything. Build container get. Let's run our command. And it's working. Cool. So what we did here is we added a dependency injection container to our console.php file, and all the commands, for example, the command line commands we have, we are getting instance from the dependency injection container. So it already knows how to implement classes. For example, if I in the MongoDB dictionary repository, we are expecting databases, correct? If we go to the container here and we comment this out, we should receive an error because we are sending here, for example, a string, and here we are expecting a database instance, right? So I'm gonna do is var dump database, and I'm gonna exit just to show you what we have in this database here, okay? If I run it, we have a string, so it's not an instance of that base, okay? If we go back to our container and force the database again, we received an instance of that base, okay? So this is what we are looking for. So we proved that our container is completely working, it's working fine, and this is what is expected. So in the next video, we are going to start creating our first test class in order to test this MongoDB dictionary repository class. Yeah, that's it, okay? Thank you so much. I hope you have enjoyed the video, like the video, and see you in the next one, okay? Thank you. Cheers. Bye-bye.